3. Ovette in hand, Cal raced back toward the orphanage, barging through anyone who got in their way. Panic had filled the streets. Terrified citizens screamed and ran in the opposite direction, passing by in a blur. Ovette wrenched herself from Cal's grasp, panting. "What are you doing?" he snapped. "We can't stop. They need our help." "Cal," she said, her face red, fingers clutching her chest. "Is this my fault? Did I do this?" She struggled to get each word out, but the fear in her voice was plain to hear. "What are you talking about?" Cal said. "You've been here all morning. Roscoe probably finally got his gift and lost control." His lie tasted bitter. Leif, trapped by the fire, flashed in his mind, lancing an all-new kind of fear through him. The stubborn old man would be limping around, making sure the little ones weren't trying to pretend the fire away in some hidden corner of the building. "No, Cal!" Ovette snapped. She was close to the verge of tears. Looking at her made the knot in Cal's chest tighten. "They're here for me. I should just hand myself over to them. Maybe then they'll let everyone else go." "Are you listening to yourself?" Cal grabbed her shoulders. "For what possible reason could they want you?" He needed to see it. He needed proof. Ovette's glare intensified, her anguish shifting to anger. Good. He needed her to be angry. Tears and fear paralyzed you. Anger sets you free. She straightened. Standing before him wasn't the girl he'd grown up with. Wasn't the girl he'd tried to impress and keep at a distance all at once. White flame erupted in her palm without effort, dancing between her fingers. Cal stared at it, transfixed. Her gift was real, different from the ones he'd seen before. For most, their hands would glow a similar color to their gift. Some of the older orphans had said channeling wasn't easy. The Daven brands made the process easier, less exhausting. But Ovette showed no signs of discomfort or exhaustion. If anything, for a heartbeat, Cal could swear she looked relieved as she stared at him. "I wanted to tell you. I really did," she said, the intensity in her gaze unwavering. "But I didn't know how. Not because I thought you'd be angry. I knew you'd be angry. I didn't tell you because I don't know what this is." "Cal," she continued, "I've had a vision. Or something." "A vision? What do you mean?" Cal said. Ovette closed her palm, snuffing out whatever light was there. Cal couldn't take his eyes off her hand. He just stared, though not half as intensely as Ovette had. He felt empty, small all of a sudden. "I don't know. It was more like an impression, like something's watching me," she said, stepping a little closer. "It scared me, Cal. I don't want to be seen." She placed a hand on Cal's shoulder, and warmth drifted through his body. It shook him out of his stupor, reignited his panic. "We need to get back. Leif will know what to do. He has to," Cal said. Ovette nodded in response, removing her hand and clutching it around something under her clothing. A longing for the now absent warmth crept into his thoughts, but he shook it away. He needed to focus. He needed to get back and do something. Anything. "Can you run?" he asked. "Yes. Don't worry about me. I won't fall behind," she replied, sounding resolved. He grabbed her hand again and darted into the alleyways. They would offer a quicker route, avoiding the mass of people trying to flee whatever was going on at the orphanage. Ovette kept pace as Cal ran through the narrow alley, his heart thundering with each footfall. Leif was going to be okay. Leif had to be okay. Leif, please be okay. The orphanage blazed like a pyre. Flames filled every window and burst through doorways and holes. The smoke filled air made breathing difficult. Cal heaved. His eyes stung from the heat, but he refused to tear them away from the inferno in front of him. Everything he had ever known was burning. He had to get in there. Maybe there was still time. He moved, but was pulled to the ground before he could make the first step. He glared at Ovette. What are you doing? Ovette pointed at the prefects hurling fire at untouched sections of the orphanage, while others dragged out screaming littles and threw them to the ground. Each wore simple, inexpensive plate armor, crude, but enough to make little men feel big. Cal's fingers found the hilt of the dagger Lady Havisham had given him. The prefects weren't looking his way. He could take one of them hostage, force them to back down. Ovette could hide here, safe. They'd never know she was here. He could do this. He had to do this. Ovette buried her face into his shoulder, halting his adrenaline. Cal, our home. The Littles. I know, he said, trying his best to sound brave. Ovette, I need you to stay here and hide, okay? I'll. Ah! A shriek from inside the orphanage cut him off, tearing his attention away from Ovette. A prefect hauled out Lady Havisham and threw her amongst the rest of the children. Her face was a model of black and purple, and she clutched her side, blood seeping through her dirty apron. She dragged herself toward the terrified Littles, shielding them as two black armored figures emerged from the burning building. A golden spire with chains wrapped around it emblazoned on both their breastplates. One bore a menacing helmet, while the other's shock of white hair stood in stark contrast to his armor. Flames glimmered against his blackened plate, its sharp, angular ridges, almost wing-like, running from gauntlets to elbows. Cal was transfixed by their presence. I shall ask you one more time, Lady Havisham. The white-haired man's voice was devoid of pity, a compliment to his granite-like expression. Where is the Gyfted? Ovette gasped. She had been right. This soldier, this murderer, had come for her. He was the one in charge, the one who led the prefects as they set fire to Cal's life. Cal tried in vain to bring his breathing under control. His knuckles whitened around the hilt of the dagger. Let me go. Roscoe kicked and squirmed as a prefect dragged him out of the building. Soot smeared his face, and sweat sheened his brow. Behind him, another prefect dragged a mewling Prissa out by the hair. With every step, she withdrew into herself, flinched at every sound. The first threw Roscoe to the ground and sent his boot into the boy's stomach for good measure. Roscoe yelped in pain, but managed to latch onto the prefect's foot, not letting it get away. The corners of Cal's vision blurred, his skin flushed with heat. That same nervous energy pooled in his muscles. He tried to move forward, but Ovette held him tight. She tilted her head, opening one eye to allow herself the barest glimpse of the unfolding brutality. Stupid little hollowborn! The prefect bellowed. He yanked his foot from Roscoe's grasp and brought the heel down onto the boy's face with a wet crunch. Cal looked away, flinching at the noise. Roscoe cradled his bloodied and broken nose, the blood streaming through his fingers. He flung his other palm out to the prefect. His screaming broke his voice. The strain shook his body. Ha! The prefect looked toward the others, menacing glee painted across his face in broad strokes. Lads, come look at this. Little Smelter thinks he's a hero. Roscoe, unperturbed by the prefect's comments, strained harder. The sweat from his forehead mixed with the blood from his smashed nose. The back of his hand began to glow, dim at first. He pushed, strained. The prefect looked down just as fire erupted from Roscoe's palm, a whipping, flailing gout of flame. The prefect reeled, screaming in pain, his hands clawing at the right side of his face. My eye! You little hollow touched! He roared. In an instant, his sword was in his hand, and in the next, Cal watched in horror as the prefect ran Roscoe through, gritting his teeth as he pushed harder on the hilt. He drove the blade deeper, and Roscoe made no sound as he slumped to the ground, save for a wet, blood-spluttering cough. The prefect, boot to chest, yanked his blade free. Cal couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything. His vision watered as he stared into Roscoe's lifeless eyes. The only movement came from Ovette's muted sobbing and the grasping of her hands. These dirty little hollow scum! We should just kill the lot of them! The prefect snarled. He swung his sword through the air in a clumsy arc, flicking Roscoe's blood across the ground. The children whimpered even more, while Lady Havisham stared at Roscoe's corpse. It's your own fault. The white-haired man had turned toward the burned prefect. His tone was still flat, as if uninterested in the events that were unfolding before him. You let a child get the better of you. Your injury should serve as a reminder of your vigilance, or lack thereof. Even a cornered rat can bare its teeth when pushed. The disgust on his face made it clear he didn't care. None of them did. To them, the littles were no better than the filth that gets thrown out into the streets. Ovette had stopped sobbing, stopped clawing at Cal's clothing. She stared at the ground, silent. No murmur, no mutter. This was worse. Cal couldn't take this much longer. There must be something he could do. Cause a distraction, maybe? Set fire to a different building and make them investigate that instead. Each idea, half-formed and reckless, passed by in a blur. The man in charge, the one with the white hair, he was the solution. If Cal could get to him and plunge this dagger into his neck, he would save everyone. His breath quickened at the thought, the nervous energy pleading to be used, burning through his leaden legs. The white-haired man turned on his heel to face the other prefects. It's clear we're getting nowhere here. Take the children. His gaze shifted to Lady Havisham. If they resist, kill them. Roscoe's killer turned to take hold of Prissa, passing his sword to his other hand. Prissa broke free from his grasp and dove toward Roscoe's body. The prefect pulled and tugged at her hair, but Prissa's grip was iron. Want to join your friend, do you? He barked. His confidence and bravado were high, well in front of opponents too afraid to fight back. Fine. His sword looked clumsy in his offhand, held at an odd angle. Still, he raised the tip above his shoulders and swung down hard. Cal's scream died in his throat. The veins in his neck bulged. The blade cut deep, but not into Prissa. Lady Havisham had thrown herself over Prissa. Cal hadn't seen her move. One moment she was at the feet of the men in black, and in the next, Cal moved before thinking. He screamed, bellowed with all the anger and rage he could muster, as he tore through the square toward the burned prefect. The prefect turned just in time to see Cal. just in time for their eyes to lock and for Cal to register the man's fear. Cal drove the dagger into the prefect's throat, the momentum tumbling them both to the ground. The prefect gargled, one hand grasping at his neck, the other pushing against his assailant. But Cal held firm, forgetting the world around him. Warm blood spilled across Cal's fingers as the panic left the prefect's eyes. He watched as the prefect's life slipped away, listened as he rasped his last. Pain exploded at the base of his skull. He sprawled forward, then looked back to see his reflection in a faceless black helmet. Brave, but foolish nonetheless. The white-haired commander stood a few paces away, arms crossed, observing the scene. Cal shook his head against the blur and pain that had replaced his vision. In front of him was not a man. It was a monster that Cal had to take down in order to protect his family. He could do this. His opponent may be armored, but Cal's anger made him feel strong, invincible. He slashed with his dagger, wild swings that connected with nothing but air. His armored opponent dodged with little effort. Grief strangled his cries as he lunged. "Why not use your gift, boy?" the white-haired commander taunted. "Fighting like this will get you nowhere." Cal continued in earnest, trying, hoping, praying that he would land a strike. His limbs grew heavy, his steps clumsy, and yet his opponent moved as if his armor weighed nothing. "Ah, I see. A hollowborn protecting the gifted. How novel." "Shut up!" Cal screamed. "You've a fire in you, boy, but this charade has come to its end. Dispose of him." With terrifying speed, the armored man stepped to the side, grabbed hold of Cal's wrist mid-thrust. Cal struggled and pulled, but it was useless. The gauntlet closed around the hilt of the dagger, crushing his fingers. Cal yowled in pain. He yanked his shattered hand free as the dagger fell from his clumsy grip. The armored man caught it mid-fall. He flipped it blade over hilt and then plunged the tip into Cal's stomach. Cal staggered back. It took his brain a few seconds to register what had happened, and a few seconds more to register the intense pain that pierced through his body. It felt as though every nerve ending in his stomach was on fire. His legs hollowed, and he crumbled to his knees. "Your kind need to learn their place." The white-haired commander raised his sword. "You're little more than a stain on the Empire. Pathetic. A waste of gift." Cal couldn't take his eyes off the hilt in his stomach. His trembling fingers pawed at it. Pain lanced through him with each involuntary shudder. "I hereby find you guilty of murdering a prefect in cold blood." Mirth had crept its way into the man's voice. "And charge you for being hollowborn. The punishment for these crimes is death." Cal's anger had drained. He felt empty. He could do nothing but watch as the sword was raised high, slow and steady. Staying awake grew more difficult with each breath. "No! Stop!" Ovette screamed as she ran. She flung her arms out and placed herself between Cal and the commander. "What's this? Another hollowborn? My, Hephaestus. Quite the rabble you've collected." Cal felt the impulse to move his arm, to push her out of the way. "I'm the one you want! I'm the gifted!" Her voice was desperate and angry. I'll go with you, but only if you let him live. Let them all live. Nah. Cal struggled to speak. Blood had begun to pool in his throat. The commander took a heavy step forward, blade tip pointed at Ovette. Prove your claim. White gift fire bloomed in Ovette's palm. Its glow cast eerie shadows in the commander's armor, the material absorbing the light. Very well. Take her. Leave them. Ovette spun around and knelt beside Cal. The light from her palm slid into his chest as she cradled his head. I'm sorry, she whispered, kissing his cheek and slipping something into his pocket. I'm so sorry. No. Darkness crept across Cal's vision. His last sight was Ovette being pulled into the smoke by the armored man. He fought to stay awake, but his strength, his anger, failed. The warmth in his chest faded with his consciousness.